Let's get this, everybody. Welcome back to the 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐽𝐝 show, where we cover Bitcoin price analysis, and you can ask your questions about your favorite altcoins, whether it's price analysis or fundamentals. Even though I don't get heavy into the fundamentals, but if you want me to analyze what bags you're holding, go ahead and field your questions, and I will be looking over to the right-hand side. Just know that the community members, the YouTube tier members, do get a little priority for the questions that are asked, and along with super chats. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump into Bitcoin to figure out, is this going to have a pullback before continuation to the upside? Was that it? So let's start answering some of those questions, and let's get after it. On my Twitter and on YouTube, my Twitter is @𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐽𝐝 with the number 2 afterward. If you haven't been following me on Twitter, what are you doing? Go ahead and follow me now. But anyway, my target for a while, since before the move happened, okay, way back here and over here, so between these times here, I've been posting on Twitter and YouTube. I think NASDAQ is getting ready to pop up to, what did I say, 12,100 or higher. And Bitcoin should hit 32 to 33K. And the way I was thinking that for at least an upper target, not that it would pop up soon for me to make those types of posts, but rather why I had that as a limit target, just because of this. This is the, out of this whole formation, this is the highest local high. And the next one after that's way far up. So it's just an extremely obvious spot. Which is why I felt very confident. The first strong oscillation up on a 4-hour chart would likely go this high. And I think on Twitter, I back here, I said, I think it's going to happen ASAP, right? Very strong move up. It happened later than I anticipated, and NASDAQ started moving up right then, but Bitcoin took another day and a half, and then it went straight up. It really did go straight up. So those targets have been hit. Now we have the questions. In my last non-live YouTube video, my third most likely scenario, which was right here, so it was right, let me zoom way in there. I recorded that video when price was about here at 30,300 or so. And it might have actually been on this candle here or this candle here, one of those, because it was after this, the top of this channel was tagged. I mentioned in that video that the two most likely scenarios is that this will have to pull back somewhere to here with the targets that I mentioned before it continues up towards this. But the third most likely was that it does bounce off this and continue up to the target first before a strong pullback. I really thought this was much, much, much less likely to happen, but it was definitely it was the third most likely scenario, albeit a lot less likely than a small pullback first. Now the question is this going to pull back now, or is it going to go up one more time? That's the question on everybody's minds. I felt it was already likely for a small pullback. I wouldn't call this pullback, but a small pullback to here. I would have thought it was likely here. Given that it already pumped up yet again, I think the likelihood increases that it has to pull back first to a reasonable degree. Most likely the magic line in crypto, okay, everybody? Like, when in doubt, put on the 1 hour 200 EMA. Whether you're longing or shorting or picking your nose or whatever, scratching your butt, doesn't matter. When in doubt, okay, put on the 1 hour 200 EMA. It's very, very helpful. And that is a typical pullback area before bullish moves continue. It's extremely common. Bullish moves get continuation up off this all the time. That doesn't mean it's going to take down all the way to here, to 30,000 exactly. Rather, you would extend it roughly at the same slope, maybe losing slope a little bit as the move comes down, something like that. Give it a reasonable time frame to get there, as opposed to 1 hour. No, it's not going to get there in 1 hour. It might take a day. So a day to pull back, and you would get a level. Does it match anything looking left structurally? Yeah, looks like it matches with this structure here, or the previous battle line, which is the weekly open. So you have structure, and then you have the previous battle line. I would put a box here for a pullback for two obvious reasons. So it looks like it'll wick below the 1 hour 200 if I had to guess, but that's still my box. Somewhere around there is where I would say it's going to pull back. Now, is the 1 hour RSI below the green zone and below its EMA? So let's pull that up to add likelihood. Okay. We already thought it was likely here to pull back. It pumped again, which inherently makes it more likely to pull back now because it's overdue for a pullback. Just that easy concept. But that's very rudimentary, right? That's not very quantitative, right? That you can't really quantify that. It's overdue, right? To quantify this in more charting perspectives, like more legit stuff, is the 1 hour chart gets things right a lot. If the RSI, which is the green line, is below the green zone and has been rejected by the EMA, so it's not in the green zone and it's below its EMA, that typically means you're going to pull back. So does this say it's probably going to pull back? Yeah, it does. Like, this is not really a bounce point for the EMA. I mean, you don't really see that. Like, so let's zoom out. And again, this is the first essentially rejection from the EMA after it left the green zone. So it left the green zone, but it didn't get, it went back into the green zone. So that rejection is in the green zone, so that didn't count. So let's mark off a last few times this type of signal happened. And again, this is free information and it's pretty good stuff. So pay attention to what I'm doing. All I'm doing is marking off all those parameters. So, for example, this right here, was it the first rejection? Yeah, the first rejection under the white line that also is not in the green zone. Yeah, it's the first one because this one, it went above it. So the next one, okay, this one here, it came below, first rejection, kablam, right? So let me keep labeling these off. This one just tanked, so there was no signal there. This one was okay. I probably would. I'm going to make that a different color. I don't think that's a very good. It didn't go up high enough. This is a good signal right there. Bam. And I'll make that green for money. This one's okay. That signal's okay. I will make that orange, though. That's not a perfect signal, because it's not a true rejection from the EMA. So it's not a great signal because this didn't technically get rejected from there, which means it has a decent chance of sticking its landing and continuing up. So it's not the greatest signal. Oops. All right, and one more. Here we go, this one. So we don't have to worry about the green zone since it's not in it. And it's the first lower high that's not in the green zone, which it's not, and it's getting rejected. Bam. And this one's perfect. That's the best short signal. Like that is as good as it gets. All right, so now, is there something in the charts saying that it's also going to go down? From a quantitative perspective, you can literally take analytics and measure history and take past results. Is there something else in the chart? Yes, there is. We have this going on with 1 hour RSI. So let's see how good of a short signal that was. This one work? Yes. Did this one work? Yes. Even the OK one, so I labeled that orange because it was an OK signal. Even the OK one was a good short signal. Was this a good short signal? Hell, that was a badass short signal. Like that one was massive. Yeah, that one really ripped down. Was this OK signal? So even the OK signal, look, if you shorted here, would you have been in profit? Yeah. You would have had to take in profits and move your stops down, but that's tradable. Look at that. So from the signal, yeah, heck yeah, 5% of raw price, that's extremely tradable. Okay, and this is another good one over here. Look how perfectly it got that. Remember, I marked this off not looking at price. Look at that. That's exact. That's right before the, look, it's the candle before the drop. See that? So so you can see that this works. Worked here too. Look at that. Let me zoom out. Was this a good short? Yeah. Bam. And it's happening again right now. So there is something in the chart saying you have a strong edge to the downside for a pullback. Now, I got off a VIP call and I mentioned that this move could easily continue charging up, right? But I was referring to the daily chart. After this pullback, I think this has enough oomph in it to keep going. As of now, during the pullback, though, how it interacts with my area of my target area is going to give me better information on whether or not it's going to form a lower high or a higher high assuming it rebounds there. I'm usually pretty good about guessing bounce points because it's easy. Everybody's looking at the same thing, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When everybody sees the target, well, there's going to be enough people who stop selling and start buying to give it a bounce point. So bounce points aren't tough. The question is interpreting the interaction with the bounce point and how it interacts to determine is the next push up going to go up. I don't know yet. So, however, the daily is saying this move could easily roar up to like 35K, maybe even 36. Yeah, so the daily chart's saying that. But you might think, okay, well, why are you talking about short stuff if you think it can continue going up? So I just got that question on a VIP call, and here's the answer to that. And then I'll start looking at live questions. Well, if it's likely to have a pullback in the meantime, but it's going to roar up, what that means is this. If you draw this out, just something like here, bam. I feel, and let's now measure the days, or how much time that is. So from, I didn't measure it right. So from here to that bounce point is 2 days and 4. Oh, I'm covering it on the. I'm covering up in the video right there. From current to the bounce point is 2.5 days. See that? So the question was, why are you talking about shorts if you think it's going to keep going up? Well, if you want to make money trading in the next 2 days, you have to trade to the downside. Or at least you have an edge to do that. So your edge over the next 2 days, I think, is to the downside. Or at least right now it is. It looks very edgy to the downside for a short-term time frame trade. But that question means that either, in that communication, the idea of timeframes was not clear. You can make money going short and long, right? At the same darn time. But let's say your long trade, the trade that you're in for long, that's a swing trade position. So you're going to have it open for weeks, or you have had it open for weeks. So you're keeping it open. But if you want to make money in the next 2 days, you trade to the downside, although you have a long open on a different asset, right? Does that make sense? So it's a time frame thing. So you got to get down to get up. Essentially, gotta get up to get down. All right. Anyway, and what is that? Coolio from the early 90s. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Now, the reason I have 2 arrows here is the information that I'm going to get once price interacts or fails to interact. That is information in of itself. So if price were to actually come down here and then start charging back up, that the failure of interaction with the target is also good information. That's extra bullish. But the reason I have 2 arrows inside of each other here, let me make this a different hue. Yeah, there you go. Is because once it hits my target or the lack of hitting it, once I get this piece of information, I'll be better able to guess, will it be the small arrow for a lower high before it heads down, or is it going to be better chance of a higher high? Therefore, I want to keep my my profit-taking strategy to let it rip a little higher. Does that make sense? So I already know that the daily chart is giving permission to this and actually potential probability. But so the daily chart is saying this could continue going up, but what could affect the daily signal for this to happen is how it interacts here. So if you're essentially stacking Legos for reasons why and reasons why not to, right? You could keep all your reasons why for the daily to go on here, but if it reacts below this 1 hour 200 EMA and kind of uses it as resistance and wiggles around below it, that would also be reasons why it wouldn't go up, right? So it reduces the probability. It could reduce the probability of the daily signal playing out, depending on how it hits here. So as of now, I would guess that this arrow and the big arrow are what's going to happen, but I'm going to be ready to change my answer once price hits or lacks or doesn't hit. But once it roughly has a pullback, I'm going to better determine which arrow I'm guessing. But as of now, I have to pick the big arrow. Making sense there with different time frames. All right, and that's what I get. Yeah, so I think we're going to have a pullback before continuation to the upside. I'm targeting at least 33 something. I would say 33. Yeah, I think it's going to go above this box. 33.6 at least would be my guess. But I could change my answer once price hits this, depending on how it interacts with the 1 hour 200 EMA. All right, so let's start looking at questions here. Trias, please. All right. Okay, we'll look at Trias. Let's get it. Let's look at Trias, and I would assume that because Bitcoin dominance did have a breather, Trias might have had a decent or a tradable move up, but I'm not for sure. Yeah, that's very tradable. Wow. Yep, that's very, very, very tradable. All right, let's take a look. Oh, wow, 30%. That's not a bad move for Trias. Okay. Okay, let me take off the ranges. All right, ignore these blue and yellow things down here. Just ignore this for the meantime. What is the general idea here with the orange line in price? When below, generally bad. When you can get back above it and use it as support, you generally get some type of continuation. When you go below it and use it as resistance, you get continuation, right? So let's do that one more time. When you go below it and use it as resistance, you get some form of continuation. But if you get above it and use it as support, you get some type of continuation. The only question is how much continuation, right? But this is honestly, this is literally the most tradable line in all of crypto, and it works on all assets, maybe besides XRP, because XRP is a weirdo. Goes below it, use it as resistance, you get some form of continuation, right? It went above it, but when it came to check it, did it use it as support? So it went above it, when it came to it, did it use it as support? So you never would have started trading to the upside because it never used it as support. When it touched it, so it went above it, but when it touched it, did it use it as support? No, right? So this is staying below it the whole time. So the rule from this never changed, because in order to flip to bullish, you have to get above it and use it as support, which it never did here. It just fell right through both times. See that? So that short, you would have kept it until right there. You probably would have closed it right there. After you saw it bounce off this and continue going up, you would have exited the short there. Yeah, if you were able to short Trias. Anyway, this general rule. But when you're in a big downtrend, how can you tell it might generally trend up for a little bit when it gets above and use, or actually right here. That counts too. So I got above it, use it as support. You'll have some form of continuation. In this case, how many days was it? 6 days of continuation. All right, so that's the general. And when you go back below it, use it as resistance, you get continuation. All right, based on obvious rules here, and I promise you it works on everything. Like this is literally the most usable line. So this is another great piece of free information I'm giving you. This is all good, really good stuff. It might, yeah, it's among my, it's my favorite short-term time frame line by far. All right, now what has happened? So after all that going, there's a reason I exaggerated that and did more examples than one. It's because it's doing it now. It got above it and used it as support. Now, how confirmed is this support? It's not too confirmed yet. So what could be happening is it looks like it's support, but it's still just falling. You can't quite tell yet. So if you make this like a channel like this, it might just be like this literally just still might be falling. So this is not I wouldn't say this is confirmed until you get a 1 hour closure above that wick high, right? This guy, let me zoom in. So this isn't confirmed yet, but this is enough to open a trade, like buy on spot and then set stops to try to get some continuation, right? You definitely want to be setting stops on this because this is not confirmed. But once you get a 1 hour closure above this little high here, I would say that's confirmed. Like you have an extremely high chance it's getting ready to break that higher high. So as of now, you have a bounce, yet an unconfirmed bounce at the 200. So Given that it has such a strong chance of continuing up if it bounces, the only question is, how should we consider this a bounce yet? I would say it's 60-40. I would call this a bounce 60-40. I wouldn't give it too confident, like crazy confidence that it's going to continue up, but as of now, it looks like a bounce, even though I know it's not confirmed. So I would say that you have over a 60% chance that it's going to make a higher local high now. But it's not confirmed. Like 40% is still a lot, right? But it looks fairly compelling. Now, that is only talking about Trias chart. Trias also moves with, raise your hand, Juan. Yes, Juan, with Bitcoin. So what I just said was only the Trias chart and the probabilities. It looks like it's getting ready to bounce up. But what's the primary indicator for altcoins is Bitcoin. What was my Bitcoin analysis? I think it's getting ready to come down a little bit. So how far down will Trias go? If Bitcoin's getting ready to correct, let's measure from here to here to maintain it. That's 4%. Will Bitcoin's pull back that I'm guessing, is it less than 4%? Because if Trias moves with it, you'd want it roughly the same. So let's measure here. Boom, boom. That's right at 4%. It looks like, though, Trias will potentially wick or close one or two candles below the 1 hour 200. So I don't think that this bounce is confirmed yet, because it looks like it's going to go down to that line one more time. So what I think Trias is getting ready to do in the meantime, combining Trias chart with its probabilities, 60-40, but now I have to kind of reduce that because I think it's getting ready to come down to this line again. So I would have to delete this. Like, I think it has a chance to bounce, but I don't think it's bounced yet because of my Bitcoin analysis. I think it's going to go hit that line again. So what I would do here is I would expect it to come below this line again, at least on a wick or two. And then depending on Bitcoin strength, I would then make my guess if it's going to bounce there. And that's your short-term analysis, essentially. So whether or not it's going to get in a trend up here just depends on how it interacts with that line. And what did I talk about with Bitcoin? Same line, 1 hour 200 EMA. It's a big deal. And the reason it's a big deal is because it essentially aligns with the daily 10. And daily 10 is probably the most traded single EMA like in the world. Daily 10 is very, 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 it's on most people's radar. If Bitcoin does bounce where I'm thinking, and it does go up to 35K, Trias will probably get over this wick, but not to that height there. So I would say target for Trias, if Bitcoin does rally up, is somewhere about here. And again, the idea of 35K Bitcoin is in question for me. I'm not convinced that's going to happen because I haven't seen the pullback yet. I haven't seen how it pulls back, but as of now, it looks like a nice target for Trias should Bitcoin continue, which as of now, it kind of looks like it, but that would be closer to $2.70. So from this analysis, you saw me pull up Trias, not even knowing what I was going to say about it, right? Because I hadn't looked at it in several days. And then you just watched me piece together how I was thinking about things, mostly using the 1 hour, but mixing Trias for itself chart, but mixing Bitcoin analysis and how I came to determination. So I hope that was helpful, especially how I pieced it together. Instead of interpreting this, oh, he's lazy, he should already know what Trias is going to do. Well, I maybe that's fair, but this is a live show, and the point is I hope it was valuable to see me piece it together specifically, because you can do it with any chart. So what I just did is not just important for Trias, but important for any type of analysis. All right, here we go. I'll try not to take so long. All right, where are a few targets you would be looking to buy Trias for long-term holds? Under $1? Yeah, Trias under $1 is my answer to that. Where would I be interested in buying it? All right, for a long-term hold. I have $100 left of $4,000. Ahmed Raha. So, Ahmed, that is because you are probably using futures. Or you bought Luna. So if you went from $4,000 down to $100, that doesn't sound like writing things down unless it was Luna. That sounds like you were playing with futures and got demolished, which it happens. Any money, if you're learning how to trade, and you trade, it's not just spot trade. If you're learning how to trade on futures, anything that you put in there, it's going to disappear. Doesn't matter if it's $100 or $10,000 or $100,000. It's all going to go away if you're learning. So use small amounts if you're learning how to trade. But in your case, since you've already had that damage done, which honestly, that's about the amount I lost the first time I was trying to do stuff. I think 3,600 is what I came out for my first time losing everything in futures in 2018. So you're in the similar boat I was. Next time, if you're learning how to trade, first off, know that you have plenty of time because this bear market is not near over. So you have plenty of time to, save up money and just not use it. Just wait to buy lows because you got plenty of time. So that's good. So, I can't bring your $3,900 back, but just know that yet there is time to buy very, very low. And second, the next time you try attempting to trade, because you've done that first damage, you might want to give it 3 weeks on test accounts, even though I typically suggest against that, because I typically suggest starting out with $100, but you're already down to $100. So I don't know if that's the best suggestion, but typically I would suggest to people, just know that anything you put into futures, it will disappear, whether it's 10,000 or 100. So why don't you just learn how to trade with $100 until it's gone? Then try another $100, see how much you can trade, how many trades you can make before it's gone, and just keep that process until one day it never goes back to zero. And then it's like falling from the nest. That's when a bird finally fledgling decides to go. That's literally how you leave the nest in trading. Start out with $100, count how many trades you get. When it's gone, mark your number down, whether it's 30 or 3. And then second $100, don't worry about how high you get it. Just literally, once it's gone, write down how many trades, the number of trades, whether they're positive or negative, doesn't matter. And then you hopefully over time, over like a few $100s, like 4 times trying it, you'll get more and more trades in. Not necessarily get it higher first before it's gone, but you get more trades. And then one day you'll just never have to write down the number again because it never goes down to zero. That's literally how it works. I think it's the healthiest way to learn how to trade by a mile. All right, so what other questions? I know my face is big, but I'm answering questions that are non-chart. Hey, Kosa, what do you think? Where could a bottom be for BNB? Very interested. Okay. My general rule is 95% down. However, exchange tokens... So let's take a look at BNB, getting a question about the low point. My general rule of thumb, which works beautifully, is 95% down from wick high. That is simply the most logical area for almost everything. If I can give one exception to that rule, outside of Bitcoin, Bitcoin's an exception. Bitcoin's not going down 95% anymore, but outside of that, perhaps Bitcoin and Ethereum are exchange tokens. So let's see where 95% is. I don't think it'll hit it. Okay, you mark off 95%. Actually. Okay, mark off 95% and look left. Does that align with any structure? Absolutely. Aligns with this. Aligns with all this before it took off. So that would be a reasonable target. So I will put a box here. If this were not an exchange token, I would put my box right there. But it's an exchange token. So I have to guess it's going to go a little less. And 83% is roughly what Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin lost 84% of its value last bear market. Is it fair to think that that BNB might lose exactly as much as Bitcoin did last bear market? Yeah, that's reasonable. Okay, well, look left. Is there any price structure there that could support that? There is. It's a blip, but it's there. So look in. Yep, that's a blip. That could hold up price. So put a box around it. Now think of shades of gray, because these boxes are pretty far apart, both in raw price and on a percentage basis. They're pretty damn far apart. So if this is the only two places that a bottom could happen, and let me label this $120 which is very, very likely to be hit before 2020, late 2023. And in the middle of this is around 33.5. Because there's nothing between it, what would be the third best option? Perhaps there's a big fib line there, which we could do here in just a minute. There might be a big fib there, or just using structure. Is there anything like the weekly 200 down there? So let's see. Is there something hiding there? Which I anticipate there is something there, but nope, they're both above it. What about the monthly? What's on the monthly chart? It's not old enough to have anything down there. Wow, the monthly chart looks really bad on BNB. Ooh, wow, that looks bad. Yeah, this makes it look like its move is just getting started. With this bearish cross right here. Yikes. Let's go to the 2-week. It's not down there either. So it's not old enough. The coin's not old enough to have an EMA down here. It would. The monthly 55 or something would be down here. But there's nothing there for people to look at. So it's not going to be an EMA. Let's do a fib. Retracement. Let's do... So we're hunting for bottoms. Nothing there. Let's try it a little differently. Let's try it on the daily. Let's go boom. Boom. Oh, I didn't get the wick eye. This is a big asset, so I want to see if I can get this or not. 786 is here on that it's not a fib. That's not a fib retracement. That's a fib extension. So there is something here at $58. Let me make sure I did it right. I did it more correctly, and that actually points down here. Wow. So the only things on this extension are the 786, which is exactly at the top of my box anyway, and the 618 is exactly in the middle of this box. Wow, this is a tricky one. So an in-between would be more like a wick below 120. But if it were to go below it, it would probably come up extremely quickly and find support there if it went below it. So I would say somewhere around 120, maybe test your luck closer to 100, but I would say this is a pretty good target, 110 to 120. And that is my low. So I hadn't done a low assessment, a guess for BNB yet. I have on a slew of other coins, but that's what I'm getting. Will it do it this fast? No, not necessarily. It doesn't matter how it gets there. It's just that interaction. It could go up, with Bitcoin 36K first and go down, boom, 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 all that kind of stuff, right? So the way it gets there, I'm not trying to guess, but just the idea that it's very, very likely both going to hit, but also it has a strong chance of bouncing there. It has a very strong chance of wicking only to, like a wick only to 110, and that would be about 80, what percent down? 80, 110 is 84, which is exactly like Bitcoin. So this would be my guess. I would be shocked if $33 happened, but I wouldn't be shocked if it wicked if there's a nasty capitulation day, it goes all the way down to like 77, but in 2 hours, it's all the way back to 136. Does that make sense? So the only way to catch something below 110, if I had to guess, would be to have your limit buys already there. Because you're not going to, you'll be sleeping when this crap happens, or there's just no time to buy it below 110 would actually be I would actually guess this. Something like this, regardless of how long it takes to get there, just in general from from this point to this point would be my more specific guess of BNB, and hopefully that's a good target for the bear market. And I'll follow up. I'll probably follow up on a lot of these predictions in 2023 when it's clear Bitcoin's in a bull market or trying to be in a bull market again. It'll be fun to go back on these videos. So hopefully that was helpful. And again, folks, like, you can use that strategy on anything. Outside of labeling it an exchange token, just start with 95% down and look left, and you're probably you'll probably gonna be able to guess the bottom if you have 3 guesses, and be within very, very close of a bottom. All right. If I'm new to crypto, is starting buying BTC now a good idea? Okay, so somebody asked if I'm looking to DCA, be in crypto for a while, is buying Bitcoin now a good idea? With the assumption that it's from an investment standpoint, yeah. Honestly, I think it's always a good time to be buying Bitcoin, even when it was 69K. I wouldn't say do futures longs on that, but spare $100. I saved $100 from my insurance. Buy Bitcoin, even though it's screaming up. Whatever. Is this the perfect time to buy Bitcoin? No, probably not. I think in the low 20s would be a really good time to buy it if you want to get the exact timing. But in general, Bitcoin is relatively low. It could easily go lower the next year and a half. But I think you're within reachable distance of a bottom. And in the next, so my answer, yes, would be based on within 4 years, that purchase of Bitcoin today would look really good. But it could take 3 or 4 years to look real good. But once it does look good, it'll look real good. Does that make sense? So what the El Salvadorian president is doing, even though he's buying in 40K, 43K, doesn't matter. In 4 years, he's going to look like a freaking genius. He is. He's going to look like a genius. And all these news outlets are actually, people just forget by then, right? But anyway, yeah, he's going to look like a damn genius. All right, would you start to DC and alts after Bitcoin dominance goes 60%? Yeah, 60% is pretty high. Yeah, so somebody asked, trying to use Bitcoin dominance as an indicator for when to start dollar cost averaging in alts. Yeah, 60% is that would be crazy. Wow, it's that one. I don't see that happening. Well, it was just at that line in 2021. I guess it could happen. Wow, that's actually a pretty good target. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. Shit. Told myself I wouldn't. So this is Bitcoin dominance chart. So now you know what I'm staring at instead of me looking like a dumbass. Wow, that could happen. That's actually a really good target, man. I don't think I would have considered that, but now that you say it and it's essentially forcing me to consider that as a possibility. It's actually a really good target. Yes, I would say absolutely yes. And honestly, I think that guess of 60% is better than what I would have guessed. I probably would have guessed somewhere around this line here. Maybe a wick, so maybe the one up, a wick above 54%, but I think it can actually hit 2 above that, because it was just at that line. So let me make this bold so you know what I'm talking about. That line right there, it was just at it in 2021, so it could easily hit this line again, despite my not thinking so. Yep, I think that would be a fantastic time. That could be the exact point, really. That could be like an altcoin bottom. I'm gonna have to mark this. That's really good analysis. Whoever asked that, Ivan. Yeah, that's a very good analysis, man. I'm not for sure if you got that from another channel or whatever, but I haven't made my guesses on Bitcoin dominance, but just glaring at this, I don't think I would have chosen that within the first 10 seconds, but I think upon further assessment, that's a damn good target for this very cycle and for a bottom for altcoins. All right, awesome. Yeah, that was really helpful. You helped me, man. Shit, I should be paying you. But yeah, I can confirm your suspicion that that's a great great target. I lost 30K at first when I made my millions years ago. So Sand is saying, you're essentially the tuition to your education on how to make money with money. It's not free. Tuition to learn is not free. It takes a lot. When I first started out, so in my day job, I made way more money than I typically do that year. And so I was willing to be aggressive and willy-nilly in case it all disappeared. And that was in 2017. I thought, it was actually more aggressive of a bull run. It was longer and aggressive, I guess. This one was actually quite aggressive, but it was short-lived. Anyway, that bull market, you could, just like this one, you could throw money anywhere, even more so, and everything more like 50x instead of this time. A lot of things didn't. Last bull run for altcoins was crazy. It was way crazier than this year. And because everything went up together, it was all unison. A lot of times, like for example, Dash or Litecoin, they didn't hit their all-time highs, right? So this was very different. This alt season was very different. You had categories that did well as opposed to everything that did well. DeFi did well, Oracles did well at the very beginning, then your Web3 did well, all that stuff, and then NFT area, but instead of everything. So give me a second. He's essentially saying this. I got off topic. Tuition to the education. I lost a lot of money after that all happened, and how much I lost is I probably lost like 40,000 on miners alone. And yeah, when I resold them, they were already paperweights because they were the ASICs. I only bought one GPU one, and I got almost all my money back. They were NVIDIA's. I was mining Monero, and all that stayed profitable for probably 2 weeks. And then I couldn't sell them fast enough. The price even of mining equipment tanked faster. So I got burned on miners, and for a lot of my crypto, I did ride down on it, but I had less money in crypto from the beginning. So it went up more than that. But but my initial investment was actually less than my initial investment on miners. So yeah, my first trial rodeo, even before trying to learn how to trade, I got my ass handed to me. And then when I tried to learn how to trade, realizing that I literally gave my money to people, and I willingly gave them my money from buying close to a top as they were selling. So, and that idea, since I'm good at math, I'm just good at a lot of things besides high jump and hula hoop, right? So I was like, fuck, I literally gave my money to people, and I did it willingly. Like, I want to learn how to do that to other people. So I lost money as I had that. So losing money made me have that realization. And then I wanted to learn how to trade so I could do that better. Because it was mind-blowing. Like, I'm really good at patterns and math and Rubik's Cubes, and I gave people my money. I just couldn't believe it. So losing all that money actually turned me on to quantifying how to create a repeatable system to essentially print money because people are giving me their money willingly. And then to learn that, I had to lose several thousand more dollars. So yeah, it can be a long road. All right. BTC dominance means that the accumulation of BTC. Okay. ARCs. So I'm not looking at charts much. Y'all ask me different non-charty questions. ARCs, no genius. So is asking about Bitcoin dominance. Does it mean that the accumulation of Bitcoin increases? No. What Bitcoin dominance is, if you go to coin market cap and you look at the market cap of Bitcoin, okay, it's simply it's this number divided by the market cap of all crypto together. That's what Bitcoin dominance is. So that ratio of this number divided by this number, so this is all market cap of all crypto up here. Can you see that? It's just, so Bitcoin dominance is this number divided by this number. Actually, let's make sure that's true. Let's do it. Show me the money. That number divided by that number. I gotta get rid of the commas. Okay, cross your fingers. Is it close to 46.77? Ha! So those two numbers have nothing to do with the accumulation of Bitcoin. Just raw. Does it correlate? I actually don't know. But the market cap of it relative to the market cap of everything doesn't necessarily mean that people are accumulating it more at that time. It could mean only that people are selling altcoins much harder than the average person is selling Bitcoin, so they're going down lower. But people are still selling Bitcoin, therefore accumulation isn't necessarily going up. Does that make sense? Bitcoin just goes down slower than the altcoins, which is why that roars up, why this number gets relatively bigger compared, not bigger than this number, which is impossible. It can't ever reach it, but the ratio of it gets bigger. All right. And however, if you've seen some YouTuber that does on-chain analysis overlaying the two, perhaps there is a correlation between the two, but one does not, definitely, it's very far from causality. Like it might correlate, but I'm not even convinced it does. So no, it doesn't inherently have anything to do with it, but it could correlate fairly okay, like a moderate correlation. All right. So my ADA short from first lower high is now in the red. It's about to shoot up. Good question. Well, yeah, it hit a bounce point, man. Oh, no, that's a while ago. Sorry, this is the daily chart. Let's zoom in. It did go over that lower high. Yep, so sometimes you have to try things twice. I'm surprised it did that. What did Bitcoin just do? Didn't do the same thing. Yeah, Cardano's tough to short. I just got off a VIP call saying that. All right, so let's, when in doubt, use the 1 hour. Okay, so when you entered the short, the 1 hour RSI was in the green zone. Now it's getting rejected by the green zone in the EMA. So you're just now getting that point where you would, now, does this rule work this perfectly on Cardano? No, it doesn't. A lot of times it just goes straight down. This is a wicked perfect signal. But the fact is, the 1 hour RSI was in the green zone when you took on your short. Actually, let's confirm that's true. So if you did that lower high, it would be right here. Where is that on the RSI? In the greens. Yep. So you were in the green zone. And at that point, Bitcoin was also in the green zone. So if your altcoin and Bitcoin's 1 hour RSI is in the green zone as you take on the short, just realize there's a strong likelihood you're going to get wicked out once, and you have to try it twice. So when you decide to short, when your altcoin and Bitcoin 1 hour RSI is in the green zone, regardless of being below the EMA and lower highs, doesn't matter. If it's in the green zone, even if it's in a downtrend, and you short, you have to realize that this short, yeah, it could tank straight down, therefore being in the short is a great idea. So that's why you would enter there, because I do that sometimes too. But entering the short, you have to realize, hey, it has a damn good chance of wicking me out and I have to try it a second time. So anytime you short, when the 1 hour RSI on Bitcoin and or your altcoin is in the green zone, just realize that it's okay to do it, but just expect to have to try it twice. Expect to be wicked out. And if it just takes off and goes down and you're in the green, consider yourself lucky. That would be a pleasant surprise. So see the trade a little differently based off that signal. See it differently. Does that make sense? All right. Yeah, because it was in the green zone. So you had a statistically good chance of being wicked out. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. Shit. Second time I did that. All right. Look. I need to move this over here so I'm not there. Now I can see if my face is big. Figuring out my damn screen setup. All right. 1 hour RSI was in the green zone. Now it's not. just now, as of last hour. So whatever happened here, actually right now is the time to be shorting. Bam. Around that point. So, I missed it. It's too early. Bam, right there. Right on that candle. But you can't, always do it right on the candle. You'd wait till that you can confirm a tick down, which is now. So actually now is the candle you would be hitting the lower high based off that easy rule. What was let me make sure I'm actually addressing your question. Yeah, so I don't think it's off to the races now. I think that was the first signal is happening right now. So no, I still think it's going to go down on a short-term basis. And right here would be my target because you look left, that's where the structure is. It's probably going to hit somewhere close to there. All right. Yeah, that 1 hour RSI trick is really helpful. I'm telling you. It's literally one of my favorite things to hit. It's my favorite signal. That and on the 12 hour. So when you see it happen on the 12-hour chart, whoo! And it happens then, and it formulates on the 1 hour as well. 1 hour and 12-hour. That's the sickest combo because that's when you can really let it rip to the downside. But if you only get it on the 1 hour chart, it's a shorter shelf life, so you have to take profits more quickly, which you would on this trade as well. All right, BTC dominant. So my ADA short. Okay, I think KDA. All right, stop losses used to. Yes, used to. So crypto funds about losing money, your tuition to learning, a skill set of printing money, taking other people's money as they give it to you willingly. So crypto fund said he lost 7K at first. Yeah, that's about what I had to pay to learn. Strictly trading. I think I funded 3,600, then in the low 2000s, and in the low 2000s, I blew through all three of those. Then I decided I'm only putting $169 in. And then I blew through that 3 times, and then it never went back to zero. So it was on my 7th try. Tim, that's only 6. It was on my 7th try. That's when I flew out of the nest like a bird on my 7th try. All right, your bottom target for FBTC. All right, I do have to wrap up. I'm going to answer a couple more questions that I might have skipped, and I got to go. I see KDA and maybe one more other. Yes, it is on my chart. Okay. There you go. .04. 386. That's about the middle of it. Right there. F versus BTC would be my bottom target. I already answered. I already had the answer in the charts. All right, KDA. Everybody always asking about KDA, so let's go ahead and look. Maybe I should just start the darn stream off with KDA after I finish it up, Bitcoin. All right, here we go. Well, I've recently done an analysis on it. Yeah, and has a chance actually to keep bouncing from here. Okay. And if you're interested in KDA, you're also going to want to check out the Bitcoin analysis from today because it's a little tricky, and I think there's going to be a pullback with potential continuation thereafter. So I'm going to base my ideas on Kadena off of that, and the idea that Bitcoin mixed with the idea that Bitcoin dominance is skyrocketing. So Bitcoin to the upside should outperform Kadena for the most part. If Bitcoin pulls back 4.5%, I would expect Kadena to pull back every bit of that up to 10%. So let's get so 10% is exactly that line. So based off my Bitcoin analysis, where I think either, so this is the daily chart. Let me go to the 1 hour chart. Let me put on the 1 hour 200 EMA. All right. I think during this pullback, I think this has a strong chance of bouncing one more time exactly on this pink line at $2.01. And my idea for Bitcoin is either Bitcoin high over this height will either make a lower high or a higher high after about a bounce. After a bounce. So I don't know which one will happen, but as of now, I think it's the big arrow. So if that guess is correct, and Bitcoin charges up to 35K, I would expect this green, honestly, this green zone to be where it stops, unless you see Bitcoin dominance really start to drop along the time that price of Kadena is getting up here. If Bitcoin dominance starts dropping on that chart, so it's a totally different chart, but if you see a drop, then Kadena has a chance to hit these. But if Bitcoin's going up and the Bitcoin dominance is not dropping very much at all, you know, like it needs to be really starting to leg down. If it's not really legging down at around the time Kadena is hitting $2.70, then $2.70 is probably going to stop Kadena. If you see price, you know, Kadena right here, and then Bitcoin dominance looks, you know, it looks started like it's getting ready to fall off a cliff, like, you know, it looks like it might fall off a cliff. That's when you can consider the next target, 330. But it's just local highs. It's either going to hit that local high or that local high, because that's where everybody's going to sell. That's where sellers would overwhelm the buyers. That's where buyers would stop buying, really, or at least a large portion of them. So it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy just with horizontals. You don't need anything fancy. If Bitcoin gets to 35K, it will hit one of those and it'll stop there with an extremely high probability. And, you know, in this case, you only need simple tools. So on its way up to one of these, it'll probably oscillate. The 1 hour Stokes will probably have price oscillating, you know, above the orange line to wicking below the orange line, above the orange line, wicking to the orange line, stuff like that. And so this orange line will come and play on after the next bump up. So potential retracement, then the next move up. If Bitcoin hits 35K, Kadena would then get above its 1 hour 200, but I don't think it's going to stick its landing this time. I actually think it's going to hit $2.01 first, and that would be my guess. So those are my two guesses on Kadena in the short term, and that's what we got. And I'll do a long term analysis when something changes in the chart. All right. Yeah, I've had people ask about Rune fairly often here, unless it's just you coming on and asking about it, which is possible as well. All right. Rune got way above its 1 hour 200 EMA. I hope Bitcoin doesn't do that. I hope Bitcoin comes down more. This is structurally, so the short-term time frames are kind of a mixed bag. Because Bitcoin relative to Rune got up to this local high. So Bitcoin got up to here structurally from a horizontal standpoint, but from an EMA standpoint, actually no, Bitcoin is about there from an EMA. Yeah, if I went to Bitcoin, it is actually about there, isn't it? It's a little bit above its EMA. So it's actually on par. So from an EMA standpoint, it's on par, holding strong with Bitcoin, but its pump up structurally was not as strong as Bitcoin's, because Bitcoin's equivalent went to there structurally. So you have to keep that in mind. How is this moving relative to Bitcoin? Which you could just look at Rune versus Bitcoin, but you keep that in mind as you're looking at price here. So it's losing versus Bitcoin even to the upside, it looks like. But you have a very glaring horizontal here. Man. I think if it wicks, it's probably going to, as this 1 hour 200 EMA comes up, it's probably going to hold on to this. So it's probably going to try to hold on to this horizontal until this is closer. It's going to go like this, then it's going to wick down and touch it and then come up, with the idea that Bitcoin has a pullback then bounces. Assuming that analysis is correct, even though, you know, that's not a 100% safe assumption, obviously, because I've been wrong, you know, plenty of times. All right, and yeah, I would say it wants to hold on to this, but quickly interacts with that, comes up, and if Bitcoin is ready to bounce at that time, I think this is I think this is a very clear target. It only has one area to go, so it's if Bitcoin charges up to 35K after a pullback, this would hit. Yeah, too many sellers would step in there and too many buyers would stop buying. So this would be a very good like sell into the rally point at 380. Not financial advice. This is definitely Pokemon cards, talking about Rune Pokemon cards. But before it gets to that target, though, I would definitely consider the 1 hour 200 as a very strong suspect, a good candidate for a good purchase point before you try to ride this up. Yeah, 30% on spot. That could be a pretty big trade. That's actually a pretty good setup. That's right. I might take that setup now that I'm looking at it. But this is not financial advice. My analysis here is not a call to action for you to try to, take a long at that, because I did not discuss. I only discussed, a potential entry point. I didn't talk about profit taking or risk management. Therefore, I'm not providing enough information to actually, take a trade on this. I'm only voicing what I think would be a good entry, but entry is only one of 3 major elements of trading. So don't interpret this as Costas Verde said long here and now I'm liquidated. Well, that's what risk management is for, and I haven't talked about that. So, all right, that would be my price paths. Let me draw that out now that I'm done thinking about it. I would guess that it's going to hold on, wick down, come up, and then bust up. That would be my guess. Something to that effect. And that's Rune. Okay, who did I miss? 88 stop losses, use stop losses, 7K. No, I haven't. I have not discussed ETH. I will end with this, then I do have to go. I have a hard stop coming up. All right, one notable thing on a larger perspective here, is Ethereum did just hit an origin line. It's not a principal origin line, which are these thicker ones. So that one, and that one are more your primary, and this is probably a good bottom area. If it keeps falling, it's very likely going to hit this line before it's done, which is targeting around $1,000. But it did just come up and bump its head on an origin line, and these origin lines do work. Like, for example, bounce, broke the line and tanked. Exactly where? Exactly at the origin line. Like, these origin lines work. That's notable because if it doesn't get above that origin line and use it as support, it's likely going to make a lower low. Right? So with that idea, let's zoom in and see how it's using that origin line. It's between worlds. It hasn't necessarily used that origin line as resistance yet, so it's in question. Ethereum does have in the cards to continue charging up with Bitcoin, because these lines really do work. Like, they have that specific of rules. I mean, look. It didn't use it as resistance, didn't use the line as resistance, came up, used it as resistance, and what was the perfect short point? Exactly when it used it as resistance, kablam, right? But this is not as clear. This has total permission to come down to the 1 hour, for example. You don't have to forcibly choose the 1 hour 200 as your cure-all, like snake oil, but it really does work. I could easily see this hitting the 1 hour, which is like the daily 10, the 1 hour 200 EMA, then getting well above this origin line here and continuing up. Ethereum looks, but it is between worlds. I don't see a lot of edge either way based off this one analysis. I could put on, let's see here, range, macro. Nope, it's below the range. So this looks really bad. Let's actually look at it like this on a more macro sense. On a macro sense, let me take off the origin lines. On a macro sense, just look at this. This was its accumulation zone. So what does this tell you? This, on the other hand, more on the bigger picture, this looks bad. That looks real bad. But in the meantime, it could easily come all the way up to here. And maybe even go above and fail it, like this. Or some version of it like that, a perfect rejection. So this is the difference between time frames. The daily looks awful, like real bad. But if you zoom into this, there's a lot of money to be made from here to here. A lot of money. So let's zoom into that and just consider that one candle that I have here from current price up to that line, and let's zoom into the 1 hour. %. That's highly tradable. Yeah, God, that would be days and days of playtime for longs. Smaller time frames look like they could easily really charge up. But the daily time frame looks like shit because this arrow might be big on the 1 hour chart, but on the daily, this is just a blip before it continues going down. So don't get confused on my analysis. I really think that the short-term time frames do want to keep going up after a pullback. So I can see Ethereum come down a little bit first, like this, and then get straight up there. And that would be equivalent to potentially Bitcoin 36K. Let's see. If that were to happen, I think that means Bitcoin dominance would have to start falling. Or take a breather. So 36K. Nope, it wouldn't. That's more than Ethereum. That actually aligns perfectly. Actually, it looks like it's going to hit that line. Honestly, I think that's a freaking solid guess. It looks like it could, over the next week and a half, it has permission to easily hit 21.9. Or, 21.95. 21.95. However, my Bitcoin analysis does mention that this might be forming a lower local high. So it could actually do shrink and then head down from there. And the way we'll analyze this better, which one will happen? Will the big arrow happen or will the small arrow happen? We cannot tell until the bounce. We can interact. We can see price interact with a bounce point. That is when you'll be able to better guess. Is it going to be the small arrow or the large arrow? But as of now, it seems a little bit more likely that you'll get continuation after pullback. But that could easily change with how the pullback happens and where it goes to, like just the interaction of the 5 minute candles with something like the 1 hour 200 EMA. And that would be my guess for Ethereum. So I might not lean too heavily on this, but as of now, that'd be my guess. But I think this is a second good candidate. And if the second candidate happens, that'd mean a lower high before continuation to the downside. These are my top 2 most likely scenarios. But both of them lead to at least this point. Just one keeps going and one doesn't. And that level would be somewhere close to 2,000 even. So hit that psychological number for a lower high, then continue down lower lows, lower than 1,700, which would mean Bitcoin also starts heading down, and the traditional stock market would start heading down, within the next 2 days, which is totally reasonable. So therefore, these 2 price paths look extraordinarily likely. One version of these instead of shooting down the middle. Something close to this over the next 10 days seems pretty likely to happen for Ethereum. All right, awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. ADA is hard to short. ADA is really hard to short. It's. Yeah, I won't record this and upload, but ADA is tough to short. I like longing it, but during aggressive moves, when Bitcoin is already slowing down, and it looks like a great time to short Bitcoin, right? If Bitcoin just decides to stay kind of strong for, not go up, but just don't go down yet, for 3 hours, Cardano can go up another 5%, even though Bitcoin's not doing anything. But if Bitcoin recently had a very aggressive move, and it's on the precipice of falling, no strength, but it just had a lot of strength to get up there, and it just hasn't fallen. Like Cardano loves to skyrocket at that point, like it just did. That's actually what just happened. Yeah, this is and because that happens on Cardano, you don't get many lower highs to short. Why? Because it's pumping right on the precipice of Bitcoin tanking, so it goes straight up and straight down all the time, and that's hard. You don't want to trade that. It's hard to trade. You don't want to short tops. And on a Cardano, actually, let's look. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Cardano has a lot of fast tops, and it's for that reason. It's like people on Bitcoin as they're starting to sell, therefore you can see it getting ready to be on the precipice. It's like people are buying Cardano with it, like institutions. It's a pretty clear trend. But anyway, yeah, this has a lot of straight up and down movement. Look how hard to short that was. Straight up, straight down. You sort of had, so look, this one is straight up, straight down. That one is pretty straight up, straight down. If you went into the 5 minute chart on this, maybe you had a lower high. Yeah, you did have a lower high, but not on the 1 hour chart, really. Yeah, so the 1 hour chart here doesn't have a, I guess it's over here. But from straight here to here, there's just no signal. And that's a lot of, yeah, that's 13%. It's literally straight up, then straight down 13%. But you don't want to try to short here, because as you're trying to short that, you're actually shorting here, then stopped out, then shorting here, then stopped out, then here, then getting stopped out, then shorting here. And before you could put your stops in, you're liquidated because it went up all at once, or you're down $500 like in 2 seconds because you didn't have time to put your stops in, and then it really takes off as Bitcoin is getting ready to be short. Yeah, Cardano is hard to trade to the downside. I'm telling you, it's very, very difficult. It's honestly way easier to short Ethereum than Bitcoin, in my opinion. However, longing Cardano, I think it gives about the same signals as Bitcoin, and it's a little easier to long. But yeah, Cardano's pretty tough to trade, but it's volatile and it is worth it, especially to the upside. I really like trading it. That's what we got. So yeah, I'm way past my time. Thanks everybody for being here. Thursday, 7 p.m., same place, different day, same date, time in the day, but different day on Thursday. And you just got Timified Worldwide. Set stops if you're trading futures, and nothing that I said in my video today was a call for action for you to buy anything. Not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice.